So when it comes to pulling over, how you steer is really important as well. So if I'm going to pull over on the left here, so mirror, mirror, signal left. And if I do it incorrectly, I could end up clipping the curb or going onto the pavement. So sometimes learners will go in here and then end up being too far. Right now I'm on the pavement. You're not supposed to be doing it like this. It's supposed to be on the road. If I just clip the curb a bit and then I straightened out, you might get a minor fault for that. But if you go into the curb really hard and the examiner has to steer away for you, or they feel like you're going to damage the car, then that's going to be a serious fault. To avoid that in the first place, make sure you're coming in nice and slowly, and then also using a reference point so that you don't go too far to the left. And I'll show you what I mean. So if I'm going to signal left for this parking space here, I'm going to go in, clutch down nice and early, and then once the curb hits the center of my windscreen, I'm going to start straightening up towards the right, and I'm going to try to aim it to keep it there, so that way the curb is in line with the center of my windscreen, and that means I'm not too far left and I'm not too far to the right. Before you move off, it's really important that you look around properly, and this is a mistake that's easy to make. So the way to do it right is we're moving out towards the right, so we're going to make sure we check the center mirror, right mirror, over our right shoulder to make sure it's safe. And then if it is, we can start coming out. Some learners, they'll make mistakes there. They'll either not check around properly, so let me show you the wrong way of doing it. So when moving off, they might check this side and then check that side over there, and then try to move off now without checking this side. But you see, something could have come out from this side because I was looking over here, but I'm actually moving out this way, so it's not a safe thing to do. I want to be looking here last. Or sometimes, let's say you're trying to move off, but then something's happened. You might have stalled, and then you're concentrating on that only. You think you're trying to fix the car, and then you try to move on again. But again, something could have happened now. Another vehicle could have come from the right hand side, and because I was dealing with this, I need to now check again to make sure that it's safe before moving on again. Or if you're in a situation where it's quite busy and then you're waiting for it to be clear, let's say you're waiting for ages, there's lots of cars going past, and then you move off now, you haven't done the right shoulder check, a blind spot check just before you move. So to avoid this kind of mistake, just remember to always check the right shoulder just as you're about to move off. Yeah. So if you have to wait for some reason, maybe because you're sorting out your gears or your handbrake, or you're waiting for cars to go past, if anything's happened that's not allowing you to move off straight away, just make sure to remind yourself to check over your right shoulder just before you move, and check this mirror as well as you're coming out. That way you avoid making that mistake. So moving off into the path of oncoming vehicles could also get you a serious fault. So like in this situation here, there's not much room between our lane or our side of the road and that side of the road. So if I was to move off, let's say I've done all my checks and there's a car coming down the road, but I'm only worried about the cars coming from this side, and then I swing out towards this way. Look how far my car goes. So if a car was coming from this way, I'll be in their way and I'll make them slow down and potentially maybe even crash into them. That's an easy way to fail your test. So to avoid that, if you're in a situation where there's not much room on the other side, just wait for the car to go past first. So like here, if I'm trying to move away from here, I'll wait for this car to go past first, and then check my mirror on my blind spot again, and then move. Because if I was to move when that car was there, I could potentially run the risk of getting too close to it. Another mistake that you might make is moving off with the handbrake still applied, and the car will still move even with the handbrake on. So like now you can hear that alarm, but some learners won't look at this. It's telling you that the parking brake is applied. We've got the warning light here as well. And if you leave it for too long, the examiner has to help you with this. You could fail your test for that. So once you hear any alarms, check out any warnings and then turn it off. It doesn't mean you're going to fail straight away if you move off with the handbrake on. Just make sure you deal with it before the examiner has to help you, so that way you can show that you can control the car without their help. So when you're moving off from a parked position like this, it's really easy to get really close to this car in front of us. And if you get too close, the examiner will probably brake for you, and then you fail the test. To avoid that in the first place, you see there when I did it just now, I brought my clutch up way too high and the car went quite fast towards this parked car, and because I started off quite close as well. But in the first place, to avoid that, when you're pulling over, pull over in a way that you're not so close to this parked car. So at least one car length away. That way, when you're moving off now, you can have lots more room to maneuver yourself around this parked car. If you've pulled over too close by mistake, just ask the examiner if you can move back a bit. And most of the time they'll just say, do what you think is best. And if you can do it, if you're allowed to go back, that's not going to be any faults for you. So if you're too close, just say, do you mind if I move back a little bit before I move on? Before you say yes, and then you can check your surroundings, create some space between you and the car in front, so that now when it's time for you to move, you can move off with lots of room. Now it's also about clutch control to make sure that you don't get too close to this car, or you don't drive too fast towards the back of this car, especially in a space where you don't have much room to go to the right as well. So like now, once I've decided to move off, so I'm going to bring my clutch to the biting point and then maybe even down a bit to control it. Yeah, lots of learners, when they get here, they just bring the clutch up higher and higher and higher, but you can actually control it much better than that by bringing it down a bit as well. So like bring it up a bit and then down, up a little bit. This allows me then to steer my car around this parked vehicle in a nice controlled way. Then once I've got my car straight, I can then bring my clutch higher and add more gas. See, it's a lot more controlled that way than going forward too fast towards the parked car. When you're trying to move off, you need to use the gas and the clutch together, or sometimes just the clutch by itself in certain cars will work. But what I've seen some learners do is try to move off and then pressing the brake by mistake. So they think they're pressing the gas and then they'll try to move off like this, and you see it's not working, and then they stall, and then they might even start again and try again, and then they might get the car moving a little bit, and then they keep pressing the brake. Sounds really silly, but it's happened lots of times and you can fail like that. A simple thing to remember is if your car's not moving forward properly, or if you're slowing down, it's probably because you're pressing the brake or the handbrake is on. If you don't see any lights on the dashboard, the handbrake is off, then that means your brake is on. So next time if you feel something like that, just make sure you're coming off the brake first and then adding some gas, and that way you're not going to make that mistake. So the best gear for moving off is first gear. And what some people do is they'll try to move off in first, thinking they're in first, so they'll get the car ready and then look around, and then they'll try to move off when it's safe, but then they'll stall and think, oh, what's going on? Why does it not work? Why didn't it work? Maybe my clutch wasn't right. And then they try to move again, but it will keep stalling and stalling. And because you're in gear 3, it looks like you're in first, but actually you're in third right now. And you see the way I done it earlier, I shoved it into gear with too much force and it ended up in gear 3. So to avoid that, in the first place, make sure you use the palm technique and palm the gear stick towards the left and then up. That way you're going to be definitely in first. So now when you try to move off, you should move off smoothly. Another thing you can do as well is once you've stalled, let's say you're stalling in third gear, don't just move your hand like this and do that. It's not going to help anything. That's not going to make anything change. You need to take it out of gear and then go back into first. That way at least you know you're definitely in first gear. So even if you're in first and then let's say you're not sure, you can go into neutral, push towards the left and then up again. That way now, without struggling, you know you're going to be in first gear. Where you're going to fail is if the examiner has had to tell you that you're in the wrong gear. So you can avoid that by investigating yourself and then making the correction. And then once it's safe, do your checks again before you move off and then move off smoothly. So even if it's in second, sometimes this happens as well. Some people try to move off in second and then the car will stall because it's not the best gear to move off in. Again, before the examiner tells you what to do, just investigate this area and think, oh, okay, I must be in second gear. Let me go back into first and try again. The reason why some people leave it in second is because when they're stopping, let's say they've stopped at traffic lights or in a traffic situation, they'll stop like this and then they just relax. And then when it's time to move again, they don't realize they've got to change gears. So they try to move again in second gear and then you're going to stall. To avoid that, or to make it less likely to stall, what you should practice doing is going into first gear as you come into a stop. So let's say I'm coming into a stop now, I've pulled over on the left. I'll go into first as I'm stopping. That way, if I'm moving again straight away, I'm already in the correct gear to move off in. If you practice going into first every time you go into a stop, so like traffic lights, stop junction or a giveaway, that way when you move off again, you're already in the correct gear to be in. You don't have to worry about changing gears and you're not less likely to stall because you're in the wrong gear. So right now it's a bit sprinkly, it's not raining a lot, But on a day that's got heavy rain, I've seen learners nearly fail, or sometimes you can fail as well, for not having the windscreen wipers on or not knowing how to do it. If the rain was heavier right now and the screen's getting flooded and I can't see properly, that's going to be a problem. So to avoid that, make sure before you go for your test, you familiarize yourself with the controls, especially the controls to turn the wipers on and off. So that way, if it starts raining on your test, you can turn them on easily without worrying about how to do it. If for some reason, let's say it starts raining and you don't know how to do it, find somewhere safe to pull over. Don't drive around with a windscreen full of water on it. Find somewhere safe to pull over and then try to figure it out and then drive on again. It's much safer that way, and you won't fail the test that way as well. Going into first gear by mistake can be really dangerous, especially on the dual carriageway. And this can happen when you're trying to go from second to third and you do it wrong. So let's say I'm trying to go into third gear right now and I shove it into first by mistake. If I bring my clutch up, you see, it slows the car right down. And imagine if this was on a dual carriageway now and I did that, anyone behind me won't get any warning that I'm about to slow down that much. So to avoid that kind of mistake, firstly, don't grab the gear stick and try to shove it into gear. Don't use too much force. Instead, have your palm open like this, do it in 2 moves, it's much easier. So clutch down, into neutral, up, and then smoothly off the clutch. That way, you're always going to go into gear 3. It doesn't go into any other gear if you do it like that.